Charles Conway, and I was involved in Clara Youth Centre from 1970 to 1980. And how I got involved in it was that I was approached by two young men in 1970 Easter time, I think it was, and they were Sean Tracey and Michael McCormick, as far as I remember, and they came up to St. Anthony's and they mentioned about would I help them out in the youth centre.
Well, the youth club was in the British Legion, or the hut as it was called. At the particular time, Des Duffy was chairman and he was leaving. So myself and Michael McCormick approached Brother Charles in St. Anthony's at the time. We sat outside and asked him would he be interested in becoming a member of the committee of the youth club. And I can recall him saying instantly, no, sure, what would I know about youth clubs or anything like that? So I asked him would he come down for an evening or two and just see what was going on. He came down, as I say, a few times, and then he decided, yes, that he would.
When I joined the youth club, it started in the hut. It was up and going in the hut, like the British Legion Hall, where the Scouts then, or that is now, I think. So most of the activities that most people done, I suppose, they all done different things, but we had the facilities there to play snooker on two top class snooker tables at the time. Also most probably board games like rings, darts, maybe board games like drafts, something to that effect as well. Plus the fact people could bring down their own music and play it on proper music equipment below in the hut through the music centre. So people played their own music as well. But they were mostly the main activities.
One good thing with the club at the time when we went there was that we affiliated to the National Youth Council as such, and our committee members took part in many courses. I think it was in '72 that we got the opportunity of going into the boys' school, and we talked with Brother Marcellus and with Father Burke at the time, and I must say they were very helpful, and they gave us the go-ahead, and we got the use of the boys' school, which was a real blessing at the time, for the simple reason that we had the stage, we had the football field at the back of the school, we had the use of a couple of rooms, classrooms at the time, and you know, this was really brilliant, where we were confined in the British Legion Hall, although there were 2 snooker tables there, which we did miss.
Everybody really respected and appreciated the environment of the Scoils and Frontiers National School that time, and what a privilege it was to be there. And I just want to emphasise that again, that we always felt welcome there, and of course we had to pay somewhat for the units that we burned, of the lights and the heating. We had heating as well in the winter time, so everything was right. And then we had cups and mugs. We bought cups and mugs, I think mostly, they were white. We bought maybe a couple of hundred one time. And then we had fork suppers. I remember those were all organised by the young people and the senior members in the club and so on, and parents would come down and give us a hand. And we had barbecues. I remember we had a barbecue out in the yard. There was 1 or 2, and we had gates, and we lit a fire, and a beautiful fire, and with plenty sticks and the whole lot. And Brother Niall came down, he did all the cooking, and all the young people, they helped out. And I remember that the people just gathered around, queued around, and got whatever they wanted, and it was absolutely excellent.
When I went into the youth club the first night, the first place I headed for was the volleyball court. Usually you'd have Brother Charles and John Roach and Durrani Tracey, we used to call him, but anyway, Sean Tracey. And they'd have everything set up for us when we went in. So the sports was very important to me. We had like the volleyball court, or maybe we'd have the basketball first, depending on which was set up first. There'd be the table tennis, there was the soccer, which I loved the most.
We had the best of gear. I remember we had, I think there was we had red jerseys, and and they were fairly light material. The players liked them, and we had a kind of a light blue socks and light blue shorts. I think that was it. And then there was a white top, and there was red shorts. I think that was it. And we had we travelled properly, and we had a Puma bag. I remember it was a red bag with a Puma, I think, written on the side. That was our approach. We were professional in what we did, and we learned as we went along.
From the time I went into the youth club, there was a number of games being played, and back then there was a lot of people going to the youth club, obviously, and we used to play volleyball and basketball and some football down there, and there was table tennis, and there was a pool table there as well, if I can remember rightly. And but there was also the opportunity to just sit with friends and have a chat and talk about school and talk about all the different things that went on, and just wait your turn to get involved in the actual games that were going on.
Just got back today. Them wild-eyed boys that had been away haven't changed, had much to say. But man, I still think them cats are crazy. They were asking if you were around, how you was, where you could be found. I told them you were living downtown, driving all the old men crazy. The boys are back in town, the boys are back in town. I said, know that chick that used to dance a lot? Every night she'd be on the floor shaking what she'd got. Man, when I tell you she was cool, she was red hot. I mean, she was steaming. And that time over at Johnny's place, well, this chick got up and she slapped Johnny's face. Man, we just fell about the place. If that chick don't wanna know, forget her. The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. I said, the boys are back in town. 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 The boys are back in town.
I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. And bad mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my shells and kicked in my face, but I've come through. And I need to go
On the day, I suppose my big memories would be going down to Limerick, down into Thomond College, which was a vast campus area, and it was newly built, it wasn't that long there. And I suppose being from a small town in Clara, this was a daunting place, the hall itself, the arena where we played the football was massive, with a big balcony upstairs. I remember the Clara supporters all upstairs cheering us on, and when we won, the excitement was absolutely huge. And on the day then, being brought to a restaurant in Limerick that night by Brother Charles and John Roach and being treated like kings. I mean, at 13, 14 years of age, when people talk of recession, this was poor times, So it was huge, and that was a huge memory for me. It was probably stay with me forever, And a great friendship with all those lads, John Moore and Pat Flanagan, Larry Hackett, Thomas Follen, all the lads on the panel. Peter Fitzpatrick will be there forever, and it's huge, So that would be my memory on the day, I suppose.
I remember going down, the nerves of everybody was absolutely unbelievable. And I remember before we played our first game, I thought I was going to get sick with nerves, and as soon as I started tagging out, as usual in football ever since, the nerves just disappeared. And we went out, and Brother Charles was our manager, and John Roach was involved as well. And when you had Brother Charles as a manager, you had something special. The one thing you didn't do was go back from any other player. You were definitely kept bet up to be part of the competition, and we won all our games and got to a final, and I think we won the final fairly easy, if I'm not mistaken.
We all went in a bus, everybody travelled down together, and when we got down it was a big sports complex. It was a fine spot, and as I said, the boys that were playing, I think there was Pat and there was John Moore, and I think Iggsy Gagan was involved, Larry Hackett. I'm probably leaving out a few, but I mean, they weren't expected to do well at all, but they won it. So there was great excitement, especially for a little club like ours to go down and win something down in Limerick. It was just something special.
My bows and my curtain calls. You brought me fame and fortune and everything that goes with it. I thank you all, but it's been no bed of roses, no pleasure cruise. I consider it a challenge before the whole human race, and I ain't gonna lose. And I mean to go We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world. The champions, my friends. And we'll keep on fighting till the end. Oh, we are the champions.
Playing with the lads was great fun. The mixed games was just brilliant, because you always felt like, oh, the girls be left out. But in fairness to the lads, they never did. They always included us. And especially in the volleyball, like they passed the ball, blah, 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 whatever. But they were great and they looked after us. Yeah, they did look out for us a lot, and just a lot of fun we had with them.
Unfortunately, we didn't win that one, but that was a totally different experience because here we were trying to marry five or six fellas with 6 girls, and it was a totally different thing, like at 16, 17 years of age. And you know, the camaraderie of the team again was great. And so again, it was a great memory. It was great times, and you know, there was nobody playing volleyball around at that time really. Again, the club tried to organise games with Kilbeggan and Kilcormac, and it was absolutely fantastic. And all the tournaments we used to play down inside in the school in the small hall. I mean, we thought that was our Croke Park as regards, you know, to be playing back in the early 70s. So that was huge as well. I have great memories on the day. I remember losing, but it didn't seem to bother us. We had a great time and we had a great crack, and you know, again, we were first well looked after by the club, and that's really it I can say on that now.
Drama was a very strong point in the youth centre because there was a tradition of drama in Clara going way back long before our time.
Long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. And I knew if I had my chance that I could make those people dance, and maybe they'd be happy for a while. But February made me shiver with every paper I'd deliver. Bad news on the doorstep, I couldn't take one more step. I can't remember if I cried when I read about his widowed bride, but something touched me deep inside the day the music died.
I remember one thing that the first play that I was ever in was Love and Acid Drops. You know, and I was a free man. I had no women. I was looking for a woman, so I was. His brother Charles gave it to us. He said to me, "Go and do this part. This is your part."
This'll be the day that I die. Did you write the book of love, and do you have faith in God above? If the Bible tells you so. Do you believe in rock and roll? Can music save your mortal soul? And can you teach me how to dance real slow? Well, I know that you're in love with him, 'cause I saw you dancing in the gym. You both kicked off your shoes.
And I won a award for being a good performer. At the time, you know, I wasn't expecting to win the award. No. I was expecting someone else to win the award, like, you know.
I started singing Bye Bye Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye and singing, this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die.
We did another 3-act play called The Year of the Hiker by John B. Cain. I remember that we participated in the drama festival. That was in the early stage. That was light years ahead of, you know, of other times.
In a coat he borrowed from James Dean, and a voice that came from you and me. Oh, and while the king was looking down, the jester stole his thorny crown. The courtroom was adjourned. No verdict was returned. And while Lenin read a book on Marx, the quartet practiced in the park, and we sang dirges in the dark. The day the music died, we were singing Bye Bye Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee,
from the drama and the musicals. I mean, the club at the time to organise all those shows and go all over the Midlands to drama festivals and Rochford Bridge, Borough, Abbeyleix. I remember being on the committee when they won a big drama festival or a big entertainment festival down in Abbeyleix. I remember the cast bringing down lorry loads of equipment, and it was like an army leaving the town, and it was a massive undertaking for young people in the town at the time. They would be great times and great memories again, and the whole club, you'll be looking at maybe 120 or 30 people involved at all at different levels, stage crews, lorry crews, production team, the whole works. This was like bringing a whole theatre on show, which was probably a great help in later years for the tops of the town and the musicals in the town. A lot of the people would have started out in our youth centre at that time, and huge credit would have to go to Brother Charles, and I remember Rafina Rex would have come in later days to help out as well, and people like that. So it was fantastic. John Roach, Anthony Dunn, all those people. It's huge.
I remember we going to Gormiston College for might be 5 or 6 days one time, and we stayed there, and that was Gormiston College in County Meath, and a number of the people that went, they'll be able to tell you themselves, and we came back with great ideas. I remember there was a group from Kildare that put on the mime version of Jesus Christ Superstar, and that's where we got the idea then. From them we found that we could do likewise in Clara, and we got the idea from them, got their LPs and so on, and their notes, and we decided then that we would do the mime version of Jesus Christ Superstar in Clara, and that was put on, and it was reckoned to be one of the best shows, probably one of the best. They're all good in their own, in different ways, and that was one of the best, most enjoyable, because it was done and organised by the young people themselves. I remember they held a meeting inside the tea room, and most of them were sitting down around, and they came up with all the ideas themselves and who was going to do what, and they did it professionally. They did an absolutely wonderful job.
I recall one such course that was for nearly a week in Gormiston College, and we actually saw, I think it was probably a Kildare group, performed Jesus Christ Superstar. We weren't long returned from the Gormiston College, from the course, when I sat down in the hall in the boys' school with, and probably most of the membership of the club, and we discussed putting on this show. I had gotten the LPs of the musical Superstar from the group, and there was great excitement about this.
Brother Charles, Sean, Tracey and John Roach came back from a national conference in Gormanstown, County Meath, and they had seen a production. It was actually a mime production of Jesus Christ Superstar over the weekend, and Sean, Tracey and John Roach in particular were raving about this production and more or less insisted that this had to be done in Clara. So for some reason I was picked to play the part of Jesus Christ. And just looking back on some of the photos now, they're a bit terrifying, because looking at the crucifixion scene, I just realised that the cross was actually wider than I was at the time. But there was something that started from Jesus Christ Superstar, and it still carries on from this day, because when a lot of us from the cast meet, we still talk about it. Some of the lads are gone away, John Roach, John Kennedy, Anthony Dunn, people like that. But there's still a lot of the local lads around. Johnny Bracken was involved in it, Seamus Dunn. And basically everyone that was in the youth club at the time could have taken part in the show. Because we were miming it, obviously we didn't have to be singers or dancers, thank God. But we were also an awful crowd of chancers, because what we were doing, which is crazy when you think of it, we were miming on a stage. And there was an LP, as they used to be called in the old days, being played on a record player with a microphone in front of the record player, and this was being played through 2 speakers. And we often spoke of it later that if anyone had just knocked off the table where the record player was situated, the show was going to be over very quick. So I suppose we were young, we were naive, but we were having great fun.
Every time I look at you, I don't understand why you let the things you did get so out of hand. You'd have managed better if you'd had it planned. Why'd you choose such a backward time and such a strange land? If you'd come today, you would have reached the whole nation. Israel in 4 BC had no mass communication. Don't get me wrong. She got me wrong. Don't get me wrong. She got me wrong. Don't get me wrong. She got me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Only wanna know. I wanna know. Only 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 wanna know.
Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, who are you, what have you sacrificed? Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, who are you, what have you sacrificed? Jesus Christ, superstar, do you think you're what they say you are? Jesus Christ, superstar, do you think you're what they say you are?
The youth club at that time ran for us on a Tuesday night and Friday night, so those 2 nights were taken up. As we came nearer to the actual performances, I remember we were down Saturday and Sunday afternoons. So there's a lot of time, but it was all good. It was all positive. People working together, and you could have a laugh, and still the serious work was done. And one of the real funny parts, looking back on it now, is that I think about a week before we were due to put on our first performance, some genius, I think it was Tracey, arrived down to a rehearsal with a new LP, and there was a song on the LP which wasn't on the one that we had practiced all along. We didn't even know what characters were supposed to sing this song. I think it was Mary Magdalene and Peter that sang it eventually. Whether they were supposed to or not, I still don't know, but it slightly threw the cat among the pigeons, but that was part of it. And as I said earlier, we were young and we were naive and we were up for it. So the song was learned and it was put in, and whether it was in the right place or not, still not sure, but no one else noticed.
Tell me, don't get me wrong. I only wanna know. Jesus, Jesus, I only wanna know. Oh, tell me, don't get me wrong. I only wanna know. Oh, Jesus, I only wanna know.
So then we went on, we did, after Jesus Christ Superstar, I think we did Joseph and His Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And as far as I remember, the late brother Placidus was teaching in the boys' school at the time, and he volunteered to paint the flats for that show, that time, for Joseph and His Amazing, and he got his pupils to paint that, and they did a wonderful job. It was absolutely gorgeous scenes from the Bible and from, you know, Joseph and his times and his so on. So
I close my eyes, drew back the curtain to see for certain what I thought I knew. Far, far away, someone was weeping, but the world was sleeping. Any dream will do. I wore dream will do.
We went on to Smike, which was the next musical, which was much like Oliver, and it was professionally done. We hired the costumes from Dublin and so forth, and we got lights and everything that was needed, and we hadn't a penny to our name really, but we knew that whatever tickets we would sell, we would be able to defray our costs. And I wanted to compliment the people that stood at doors and so on, and dress suits, and we hired out dress suits. I can't remember where we did, somewhere in Tullamore, and everybody was dressed up to the last, dicky bows and so on, because we wanted it to have the highest standard, and that we wanted it to be a training ground for the senior musical. The last one of the musicals that we did at that time was Frankenstein, and that was a big undertaking that time because there was a lot involved in it and so on, lighting and so on, and a lot of the costumes would have been made locally as well. People would have helped out and so on. People were marvellous, and with makeup and everything else, and people volunteered.
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight, for my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise,
he did the mash.
He did the monster mash.
The monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
He did the mash.
He did the monster mash. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast, the ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrode.
They did the mash,
They did the monster mash.
the monster mash.
It was a graveyard
They
smash.
did the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
they did the mash.
They did the monster mash. The zombies were having fun.
In a shoot
The party had just begun.
in a shoot
The guests included Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains, backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker Five.
Played the mash,
They played the monster mash.
the monster mash.
It was a graveyard
They
smash.
played the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
they played the mash.
They played the monster mash. Out from his coffin, Drac's voice did ring. Seemed he was troubled by just one thing. Opened the lid and shook his fist and said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist?"
It's now the mash,
It's now the monster
the
mash.
monster mash.
And it's a graveyard
It's now
smash.
the mash,
It's caught on in a flash.
it's now the mash.
It's now the monster mash. Now everything's cool, Drac's a part of the band, and my monster mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, this mash was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent
And
you.
you can mash.
Then you can monster.
I just want to mention here, as we're talking about musical, then we had hops. You wouldn't know what a hop is now, but then the hops were the discos, that's what they were called, hops. And when we'd announced that we'd have a hop on such and such, we'd have one maybe once a month, and the young people would come down and all their finery, and they'd be so delighted, and absolutely, they just loved these, and you know, their parents would bring them down or whatever, and they'd collect them afterwards, and they were absolutely marvellous times. I'd say we were light years ahead maybe that time, and you know, you're talking about the 70s, 1970s to 1980s, so but we certainly did, and we had live music for a lot of these as well. Local musicians, we'd have the Twigs, we'd have Foremost, we'd have Staircase from Tullamore, we had Lamplight from Mullingar, and these bands could say, well, whatever it would be, and you had the money, or you had to come up with the money, and we always came up with the money, or we bargained with them, or whatever, and bands were very good to us, and so on.
Another thing that we had in the club was probably on a monthly basis we had hops, which probably are known as discos now, but we also brought live bands to the club. Again, these were fully supported by the membership, and they were great times. There was great fun had at these.
There was a junior tour for the junior members, and then there was the senior tour, and it was Joe Collins' bus, I think mostly from Marion Square, that he looked after us very well. He was very, very good, and others as well, and Ennis's bus and all these people. I think that time there was mostly that, and they were always very helpful and very nice to us. And I remember we went to Drogheda one time, we went to Bettystown swimming, and then we went on to Dublin and Dublin Airport. And I remember another time we went right into the city of Dublin. We brought a young group with us, but every few people had an older member with them. So nobody was lost. We went into Woolworths and all the stores and so on, and we were so well organised, and people would look after each other that time, and we were all about that. There was nobody above anybody. We were all there together, equal. And then we went to Galway, down to Connemara. I remember one of the highlights for the younger people, and we went down to the heart of Connemara, and had a picnic and all there. These young people would remember this very clearly, and they'd remember better than I would. I remember we were going to Silver Strand, lovely beach, and swimming there. I remember another time we went down to Lahinch in County Clare, and we went to Shannon Airport. So they'd be some of the tours now that we went to, and that'd be a full day's tour. Like we'd go early in the morning.
First, just go sleep. Turn the wider shade of veil. At first, just go sleep. Turn the wider shade of veil.
to go, we get a bus, Morny Joe Collins's bus. I hire it and go to, we went to Drogheda, went down to Lahinch and Clare and Galway, off out to Salt Hill. We went to Bray one day, and we went to Bray and it was lashing rain and we nearly blew into the sea. I can remember that part.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
I just want to say that we went to Rome in 1975. We went to the youth pilgrimage in Rome. And that was one of the first times we went that far afield. And it was the year of the youth pilgrimage. And it was the Diocese of Meath and the Diocese of Killaloe and most of the dioceses, I think, which we filled a plane, an Aer Lingus plane going over. So that was well represented from the local people that went would remember. I don't want to name people because I might leave out somebody, but we were there in the Irish College for, I think it was around 8 days, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I think Paul VI was the Pope at the time. And I remember we went down to the St. Peter's Square and we were all there together. And I remember seeing Pope Paul VI, and I remember one thing that he said was that the gospel was a fire of love. That was what he said in English, and the rest of it, I suppose, was in different languages.
In 1975, we got the opportunity of going on a pilgrimage to Rome. Brother Charles, myself, Lily Meehan, as she was then, she's now my wife, Sheila Berry, I think it was Catherine Grennan and Anthony Dunn. We went to Rome. I can recall being in St. Peter's Square where we came very close to Pope Paul VI, Lord of Mercy, at the time. We also done many travels in Rome. Anything worth seeing, we saw, brought back many photos and slides. And it's a wonderful week. We were well looked after. We stayed actually in the Irish College. And the priests there were so good to us. It was absolutely a fabulous time.
I'm nothing special. In fact, I'm a bit of a bore.
If I tell a joke, you've probably heard it before. But I have a talent, a wonderful thing, 'cause everyone listens when I start to sing. I'm so grateful and proud. All I want is to sing it out loud. So I say thank you for the music, the songs I'm singing. Thanks for all the joy they're bringing. Who can live without it? I ask in all honesty. What would life be without a song or dance? What are we? So I say thank you for the music, for giving it to me. Mother says I was a dancer before I could walk. She says I began to sing long before I could talk. And I've often wondered, how did it all start? Who found that nothing can capture a heart like a melody can? Well, whoever it was, I'm a fan. So I say thank you for the music, the songs I'm singing. Thanks for all the joy they're bringing. Who can live without it? I ask in all honesty. What would life be without a song or a dance? What are we? So I say thank you for the music, for giving it to me. I've been so lucky. I am the girl with golden hair. I wanna sing it out to everybody. What a joy, what a life, what a chance. Thank you for the music, the songs I'm singing. Thanks for all the joy they're bringing. Who can live without it? I ask in all honesty. What would life be without a song or a dance? What are we? So I say thank you for the music, for giving it to me. So I say thank you for the music, for giving it to me.
There was orienteering then. I remember we got the idea of orienteering on pedals, and I got the idea from John Dorn, Mr. John Dorn, who was teaching woodwork in Art School Kieran, and he was involved in Ballymore Youth Centre that time, Youth Club that time. And he told me about this thing of orienteering on pedals, and I says, God, we could do that in Clara, and I think it was maybe 1977 or sometime like that anyway. And I remember writing to Laird's Jam Company in, I think they were Drumshanbo, County Leitrim, but anyway it was Laird's Jam. Anyway, I asked them would they sponsor a trophy for this, and they did a massive trophy and sponsored this trophy. And I think somebody from Ballycumber, I think it was Seamus Guinan, and I think the Fitzsimons girls that won it out. And it was, I think as far as I remember, it was 22 miles of a circuit. Up around Ahamore and off out like that, and they all had maps and they had these clues and they had to find the clues and so on. I certainly want to thank everybody that was involved, and I was blessed to be part of it, and I have very happy memories of that 1970 to 1980.
Well, I think the camaraderie would be going down on a Tuesday and Friday nights, and everything was done. You know, it was the place to be at the time, because there wasn't a lot else happening. If you wanted to play a sport, if you were into drama, if you were into quizzes, music, there was a music room set up, there was discos, there was clubs would be brought in and have outside hops, as we used to call them that time. Now, of course, they're discotheques or nightclubs, but these were our silvers and our spiders, or whatever you want to call them. Like, this was, you know, we'd look forward to those for days. And of course, winning the All-Ireland under 15 would have to be the highlight, as I said, going down to Limerick and to this vast arena, and 5 or 6 7 little fellas from Clara going down and taking on the rest of the country. Like, it was huge, and that would be, I suppose that would be a huge memory for me, and it's one I'll always carry. And I just hope that the present kids will get to experience something like that, you know, and I hope the present kids would appreciate the youth centre like I did. In 30 years' time, they will look back and say it was a great place to be, like, you know. So that would be my memory.
Kissing a girl. Kissing a girl.
Well, apart from our involvement, obviously, in Jesus Christ Superstar, one thing that always stands out in my mind about the youth club, it was obviously a very important part of growing up for the whole lot of us at that time, but you didn't have to be great at anything to take part or to get something from the youth club. One memory I always have, when we'd go out to the school field for a game of soccer, I used to always love, when the captains would be picked, I used to love to see Michael File being picked as a captain, because Mick always picked me first, even though I was probably one of the worst footballers there. But for some reason, he always picked me first. And it was a memory that always stuck in my head. I don't think I actually ever said thanks to him for it, but 35 years later on, thanks, Mick. It was just that even though you weren't the best at whatever it was, you were made feel good. And like at that time, when Mick would be picking the team, there'd be great footballers standing around, but for some reason he just always picked me, and for that few minutes you felt good about yourself. You felt important, or whatever it was. And that was a thing that we all got from the youth club, regardless of what activities we were involved in, that you could have people involved in, whether it was football, sports, drama, quiz, debating, whatever it was. Everybody found their own little niche, and everyone was welcome and made feel good about themselves. The youth club, of course, was always a very safe place to go for kids. And I suppose that would be one of my greatest memories of the youth club, just that, as I say, you didn't always have to be the best to be made feel good or to be made feel part of it.
There's one incident that comes to mind, like, and it's just peculiar actually how it actually happened. Back at that time, I'm guessing this is around, it could be maybe 1970 or the very early 70s. If it is, I don't think it was the late 60s, but I think it was, it could have been 1970 or very early 70s. The athletic club in Clara at the time used to run a race, and to the best of my knowledge, I think it was ran on an Easter bank holiday. It might have been a Sunday morning, but whatever that's whatever date or that it was on. The race was a 4-leg relay race, and it was actually ran around the town annually, and it started at the middle house. They ran the race down by Bridge Street, past Kenny's shop, left at the hut where the youth centre was, over the Clara Bridge, turn left then at Harry Mill, down Frederick Street, past Ordsquill Kieran, turn left then over Frederick's Charlestown Bridge, and then left at the parochial hall down River Street and finish up at the Mill House. That's about 3/4 of a mile around. So all the different clubs in the town at the time used to submit a relay team for this race. And the athletic club would normally have 2 teams. the GAA would enter a team, the soccer club would have a team, and all very fit people, like, probably athletes, and I was actually a member of the athletic club at the time, and as it happened, I was on the athletic club A team. But on the morning of the race, most people, all the teams togged out in the old Union Hall opposite the swimming pool. And it's over on the site beside the library, there at the moment. And on that morning, they dropped, certain people showed up that was members of the athletic club team, and the athletic club committee asked me to step down from the athletic club, from the A team. So I was unwilling to do this, like, I preferred to run with the A team. They wanted me to run with the B team, and I said, well, if I don't run with the A team, I don't run. They said, well, you're not running with the A team. So as it happened, I tugged back in again, was leaving the hall itself, and just outside the gate, I actually met Tracey. And Sean was actually looking for, he was short one member to make up a team. He had 3 runners to make up a team for the youth centre. And I explained the situation to him, told him I was available to run the race, and on account of me being a member of the youth centre, I would have been eligible to run for them. So we went back into the hall, and I ran for, the 4 of us ran for the youth centre. As it worked out, cutting it a bit short, I ran the last leg of the race. Sean Tracey ran the first one. Gerard Bracken, originally from Marion Square. Gerard was the second leg runner. Mickey McAvoy, that's involved in the soccer club, he was the 3rd leg runner, and I was the 4th leg runner. And as it happened, the youth centre won the race, won the relay race. And the reason I say it was special was because of the incident that happened to me. That was the last time that race has been ran. It hasn't been ran since. So it's probably an historic event for the youth centre to say that their team at that time won that last race that was ran in Clara for a long, long while and hasn't been ran since. So that stands out as a special memory to me anyway, that we won the race, like, you know.
When I think back on the youth club now as a parent, you know, now that I'm a parent, I look back and think, for my parents, they knew, you know, you were just so safe down there. Once you kind of went in, you stayed in, and, you know, the older guys looked after us, and there was no messing about, no nothing. We had a laugh, fun, brilliant. And I suppose then when we used to, we'd play in the Offaly competitions. Tullamore was, you know, our big opposition. And the next morning we'd go into school. Brother Charles would be there going to his class. And especially if we won, he would talk about the night before and the previous game. And so it would take up half of the class. And everybody just loved that, because then we'd no school to do, no schoolwork to do. So it was great. Yeah, it was just brilliant. Yeah, I totally enjoyed it. It was the best years, totally enjoyed it.
Well, obviously, like, you know, when you look back all that distance ago, which is a number of years ago, obviously, but I suppose going to my first dance, or as it was called then, a hop, and I met a young little girl from the Green, and she had no time for me because she thought I had bullet eyes. And but to be honest, I remember just meeting up with her, and we wound up actually going out with one another, and from there, all these many years since, we're still together.
Well, I suppose initially it was where I met Pat, and we stuck together ever since, and I suppose that would be the big memory. We've gone through the good and the bad and everything else, and we're still together and have a good family behind us. I suppose that would be one memory. But as I said earlier, for me, it was where I met friends, and I had company, which I didn't have at home. And you know, that was good from my learning, you know, that I had friends and that sort of thing. So they're my memories anyway.
What do I remember? I remember getting to know people down there, and because I went to the Sacred Heart School, I wouldn't have known that many say the girls my own age, a lot of them went to the tech and Tullamore. Like, you know, the only thing we had to do in common was going on the same bus. So I was getting to know them and making friends.
We all mingled, we all got to know one another. The hops were great. It's like the version of the discos now, because you'd invite clubs from different areas and we'd go back to them. It was an opportunity like to go to towns which you didn't have back then. Kids have great chances now, like, you know, they get brought everywhere, but back then we didn't have so it was a bus to Dangan or a bus to Kilcormac, and like that they'd come back to us. And plus there was the added bonus that you'd always meet a girl or so.
Well, apart from the obvious, the games and that, I'd say the Youth Centre tour was a huge highlight of the year. Remember the night before, you wouldn't even sleep. If you got an hour's sleep, you'd be lucky. You'd be wrecked the next morning. We got to go away for the full day, come back later that night. It was great. It was something different. It was to get away, especially at a time when people hadn't got a whole lot, you know. So that was really the one for me.
My favourite memory of the youth club was when we were under Brother Charles, and he used to bring us for the indoor football, which he'd done a lot of boys, like, you know, and we used to enjoy it. We used to play volleyball down there. It was basically a place to hang out. You go, you meet your friends, you meet your girlfriends, they meet the boyfriends, and it all comes from there. Basically, that's where I met my wife 35 years ago, and we're still together.
I'd like to take you to the beginning of the Family Resource Centre in Clara. In 1999, Clara was proactively targeted to be included in the Department of Community and Social and Family Affairs and Community Development Programme. That department was formerly Social Welfare. And at that time, the Midland Support Agency was also set up. And a worker from that agency came out to Clara and held a number of focus groups. And he met in houses in the Green, in Esker Court, in Kilcorsey. He also liaised with a number of agencies like Froiga and the schools. 9 people came forward to go on a management committee and prepare to do training to become a management committee of a family resource centre. Now, there was a number of criteria involved in all of that, and one of it was to produce a work plan. And to do that, they carried out a survey. And that was distributed around the town and in various places, and got a good response to it. And there was a number of key issues identified at that time. And one of them was childcare, another lifelong learning, another youth activities, counselling, and just generally a community facility for people. And those key issues were taken and looked at and identified to see how you would go about setting up a resource centre to provide activities like that. So basically those activities were taken and funneled down into actions. In 2002, that group met with the department. They had submitted a work plan at this stage and met with the department to discuss the work plan, budgets, premises, etc. At the same time, there was discussions taking place with the local parish priest at the time to identify the Parochial Hall as a possible centre. That meeting went very well, and the department granted funding then into December, and contracts were signed. So that was actually the basic start of the resource centre. The Parochial Hall was secured from the diocese and a lease signed for 4 years and 9 months. The management committee consisted of Brendan Clark, Finian Robbins, Martin Tracey, Teresa Whelan, Sharon Coyne, Sheena Dignam, Joyce Handy, myself, Bernie Brady. And each of those individuals spearheaded initiatives that they were passionate about. For example, the childcare was one of them. And a number of people, 2 people went off and conducted a public meeting to see how to address the childcare issue in Clara. And out of that, a subgroup emerged. And really, to cut a long story short, that subgroup applied for funding, went ahead and become an independent group, and today there's a childcare centre in Clara running independently, employing people. The same thing happened with the youth centre. A number of people were very passionate that there would be activities for youth in Clara, and they went ahead and the same thing, a public meeting, gathered together a few people and spearheaded and involved in training then and set up a youth centre. Same thing with women, there was a women's group set up, summer camp activities, so it was very much response to the needs that was identified. In around 2003, the first person was employed here to open the centre and run activities. We're now on to our third work plan. So that has emerged from the first work plan to the second to the third. And it's a work plan based on the needs of the town and a centre run by people from the town for the people at Clara.
Well, reviving the youth club was something that was in the back of my mind for a long time. So in 2003, I approached Johnny. He expressed interest and suggested we go and see the Crane. Crane came on board, Tina came on board in. We'd all been past members of the youth club in the 70s, so one by one then we began to form a committee.
From this we were formally trained as youth leaders, and with this in mind then we began to organise an event to fundraise. We organised a concert in the Mill House in Clara in County Offaly here, and various groups entertained on the night free of charge. The girls went out and they sold tickets door to door. These people would have been Kathleen Fitzpatrick, Ray Fredericks, Breda Tabella, myself, Crane, Johnny, Martin, Tina, Georgina Digan, Debbie Tracey, and if I have left anybody out, I do apologise. And we then arranged our night, which went very successfully, and we made enough money then to purchase our equipment, which was 2 pool tables, 2 table tennis tables and a football table.
It all started when Martin approached me over the project, and he turned around and he says he was thinking of starting a youth club, and I said that I'd be interested, and my wife Tina said she'd be interested. And I suggested then that we go and see the Crane, because we were on it years ago, about 35 years ago, we were on it and we had fond memories of it. So it all basically came from there.
When I got involved, Martin and Johnny mentioned that they were starting up a youth club, and I was interested straight away, so anything to do with kids had me hooked straight away. So again, it's just because it involves children, like, you know, and it's a great feeling when you see kids coming into the club enjoying themselves, kids that usually don't mix with other sports. It's great to have an opportunity for them to have somewhere to go. Not everyone kicks football, not everyone swims. So it's a great feeling when you see someone that's maybe shy and a couple of weeks later have so many friends. So it's a great feeling.
I got involved in the youth club. I seen advertisements when Martin first started off, and I went to some of the meetings. So that's where it started from there, and I joined when it first opened. I took a little bit of time out and then I came back again.
Today this could be the greatest day of our lives. Before it all ends, before we run out of time, stay close to me. Stay close to me. Watch the world come alive tonight. Stay close to me. Tonight this could be the greatest night of our lives. Let's make a new start. The future is ours to find. Can you see it? Can you see it in my eyes? Can you feel it now? Can you hold it in your arms Today this could be the greatest day of our lives. Today this could be the greatest day of our lives.
that I felt it. I tried to be chill, but you're so hot that I melted. I fell right through the cracks. Now I'm trying to get back. Before the cool done run out, I'll be giving it my bestest, and nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's again my turn to win some or learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours.
I started back in the youth club when it started back in the 2000s, and I went with my best friends, and there was pool tables and foosball tables and table tennis and board games, and there was also a shop there. And we used to play pool and table tennis and the board games mainly.
My sister was already a volunteer for about a year. She enjoyed it, told me about it, and another friend, Crane. So I came down, enjoyed it with the kids, so been doing it ever since. So I'm a few years at it now.
Liz mentioned to me one night about the youth club starting up, so I came down to see what was going on, because I was an adult member of Offaly and a good few years ago, and so I've been here ever since with the youth club in Clara.
I was chatting to Johnny Bracken one night and Tina and that, and they were telling me about their involvement in the youth club and the work they were doing, and with Martin and Marion and a few of them, and asked me would I be interested to go down and give a hand, and I said I would. We delighted, and it's about 4 years ago, and I'm delighted I did. It's a great club. It's great to be giving back a bit to the kids and trying to get the kids off the streets and in doing something. Especially nowadays, it's very hard to motivate kids to get out of the house and leave the PlayStations and everything behind and go and do something different. But they're a good bunch of kids that come here, and we have different activities for them, and they seem to enjoy it. But you could always be thinking of new stuff for them, because as I say, it's very hard to stimulate them and get them thinking of different things to do.